Today, we're going to be talking about how humor styles predict emotional and behavioral responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. So what are humor styles? Humor styles are simply the way that we use humor in everyday life. There are 4 humor styles overall. We're just going to focus on 2 of them though. These are the self-enhancing humor style, which is using humor to cope, and self-defeating humor, which is making fun of yourself in order to entertain others and avoid confronting problems and feelings. It should also be noted that humor styles are not mutually exclusive of each other. You can be high on both of these values. These 2 humor styles have been shown to have the opposite effects on our well-being, such that self-enhancing humor style tends to promote our well-being, while self-defeating humor style tends to be detrimental to our well-being. Research has also demonstrated that these 2 humor styles relate to stress and hopelessness at the trait level, or just our general feelings of stress and hopelessness. However, no research has been done on how these humor styles relate to specific stress and hopelessness, such as in response to COVID-19. Research on stress and hopelessness, the connection between the 2, has shown that stress leads to hopelessness in response to particular events. To date, no research has addressed how humor styles relate to engagement in protective behaviors. By protective behaviors, I mean actions that maintain health and prevent the exacerbation of existing health problems, such as adhering to your medicine, practicing proper hygiene. For COVID, that would include mask wearing and getting vaccinated. Past research has shown that hopelessness reduces engagement in protective behaviors, as does the perceived threat. So if you think COVID is a big threat, you're going to engage in more protective behaviors. If you think it is hopeless to bother fighting COVID, you're going to engage in fewer protective behaviors. Based on all of this, we propose the following hypotheses. First, self-enhancing humor style should relate to decreased stress and hopelessness in response to the pandemic. Second, self-enhancing humor style should predict increased engagement in protective behaviors through that stress and hopelessness mediation model here. And self-defeating humor style should have the opposite effects, as in increased stress and hopelessness and decreased protective behaviors. For a visual model, you can see here, we're using a serial mediation model, process model 6 in SPSS. In the early days of the pandemic, we recruited 180 participants through Amazon Mechanical Turk to participate in this correlational study. First, participants completed the humor styles questionnaire, after which they completed the perceived stress scale, which we adapted to be specific to COVID-19. They then completed a measure we created to assess perceived threat from COVID-19, which we treat as a covariate in our analyses. Next, they completed a measure of hopelessness specific to COVID-19, derived from the Beck hopelessness scales. After that, they completed a measure of engagement in protective behaviors, which we adapted from contemporary CDC recommendations, such as I avoid close contact with others who are sick, I wash my hands often using either hand sanitizer or soap and water, questions like these. The results of a serial mediation model confirmed our hypotheses. First, self-enhancing humor did relate to decreased stress and hopelessness about the pandemic. Second, self-enhancing humor did relate to increased engagement in protective behaviors through that decreased stress and hopelessness. Interestingly, though, there was also a direct effect of self-enhancing humor on engagement in protective behaviors. People with a higher self-enhancing humor style showed a more engagement in protective behaviors. You can see that visually here. Here's the direct effect on protective behaviors. As expected, self-defeating humor showed the opposite relationships that self-enhancing humor did, though with smaller effect sizes. So, for instance, hypothesis 3, self-defeating humor related to increased hopelessness, though the relationship with stress fell short of significance. And self-defeating humor through hopelessness, but not stress, related to decreased engagement in protective behaviors. There was also a marginally significant direct effect of self-defeating humor on the protective behaviors measure. Visually, again, you can see here there was the direct effect. To explore the unexpected direct effects of humor style on protective behaviors, we tested whether perceived threat of COVID-19 moderated this relationship. Results showed that these direct relationships only persisted for participants with low levels of threat. Participants with high levels of threat exhibited the same high engagement in protective behaviors regardless of their humor style. In conclusion, the way we used humor seems to relate to our emotional and behavioral responses to public health crises like COVID-19. It's also worth noting that the effects of self-enhancing humor are consistently stronger than self-defeating humor's effects. And last but not least, it should be noted that we were not stuck with our sense of humor. We can train the sense of humor to be how we want it to be.